All right, let's see if we can plot through this pretty quick right on top of the school day. Section 9.2 is going to be something that I don't know that you'd have ever come across before now. So it has a lot to do with angles and measuring angles in different ways. Um, and it starts with some of these notes vocabulary wise. But we take a lot of these angles and we're going to overlay them on a coordinate grid. So imagine a Cartesian coordinate grid. And we wanted to draw, let's go ahead and say some kind of 135-degree angle. Well, if we start at the origin, 0, 0, and we put one side of an angle out this way, this initial one that starts at 0, 0 and travels down the x-axis to the right is called the initial side. All right. And then we always travel this thing counterclockwise. So if we start traveling, we get to there, we're at 90 degrees, and we keep going, knowing that we wouldn't reach all the way to the other side because that'd be 180. But say we wanted to get it to 135, it's somewhere in here. So between there, now all of a sudden, this is called the terminal side, where it terminates. All right. This angle that I've just drawn itself is in standard position. It's in standard position because of the location of the initial side, and because of how we drew the terminal side going counterclockwise. If we were to take some angle and want to do 135, we could send an initial side out this way, and we could send a terminal side out this way, but then it would no longer be in standard position, and it would just, I don't know, it'd be difficult on a lot of the math we end up doing with this stuff. So then the final vocabulary point is this. If we go to draw, again, let's say 135-degree angle. So we put an initial side here, and we put an initial side there, right? And we call this 135. Well, there are many other angles that will end up in the exact same spot, essentially overlapping. And we use the term coterminal to describe this. So imagine I want to draw an angle of 495 degrees, right? So 495 would have this same initial side, and then I would travel a full 360, and then another 135, and I'd end up right back here overlapping. So 135 and 495 are coterminal. There's also the idea that if we wanted to describe, I'm going to do a coterminal angle, and I'm going to introduce this negative 225, right? Negative 225 would tell us initial side, but then the negative describes to us to go in the opposite direction. So now go clockwise instead of counterclockwise. So we go 90, 180, and then another 45 degrees would be right and finish right there. So all three of these angles are coterminal because they all end up in the same position, but are not necessarily made by the exact same measure. So let's draw some angles in standard position then, and that'll be the end of part one. I'm just going to go ahead and go through here and get all my Cartesian coordinate planes out of the way. So if I draw an initial side, I always want to start at the origin and come straight down the x-axis, right? As a reference, I'm just going to write this out once, right? We know this is the 0 degree marker. If we go up here, here's 90, here's 180, here's 270, and then this becomes 360 again. That helps when we're trying to sketch some of these out. We don't have to be perfect, but so when we want to draw 240, we know that we're going to go past 90, past 180. We're going to be in between 180 and 270. So then our line is somewhere right there, and we can write by this little circle, hey, might just be an estimate, but we're trying to get to 270 there. For 500, we'll start with an initial side there. We'll go 90, 180, 270, 360, and then need to go more, right? 360 plus 90 is what? 450? So 450, and then we still got another 50 to go, which means we're not going to finish in here, but we're somewhere in there, and we can write 500 degrees. The big thing for me will end up being that you're able to draw this basically in the correct quadrant, that you've done the math correctly. So if we look at the next one, 390, so we know we're going to go 360 degrees all the way around and then still have another 30 to go. So even if it's not perfect, we can say that we really intended for that to be 390. Initial side, 65 degrees doesn't even quite make it to 90. All right, as talked about above, now we're going to go through 4 of them with negatives. The negatives tell us to go counterclockwise. So to go counterclockwise, now we're at negative 90, negative 180, negative 270, 0, and negative 360. So negative 50 is a little over halfway, right? Negative 50. Thinking about this while we're at it, coterminal to negative 50 would be the same as traveling what number? 310 in the positive direction would give us another angle that gives us the same initial side and terminal side. Initial, negative 90, negative 120, and here somewhere. Initial, negative 360, still leaves us another negative 110 to go, so there's negative 90, and we need to get it some kind of extra 20 in there, so we're at negative 450. Negative 160, go counterclockwise 90, not quite to 180, and there we are. All right, so that's drawing something in standard position. All right, find one positive angle, one negative angle that are coterminal with the given angle. All right, so if we're going to do this, let's go ahead and map out 80 first. '80 somewhere before 90. An easy one to go positive is go 80 plus 360, which would be 240 or 440, right? And think about why that's coterminal. We still have this initial side. We go 360 around, and then we get another 80, and there we are. We could also go, if we wanted to, 80 minus 360 and get negative 280, right? And if we did that initial side and we went counterclockwise, and then we had negative 280. Now, one thing thought for me to consider later. Anyways, 230 would be initial side, 180, 230 somewhere in here, right? If we went 230 plus 360, we'd have 590 as a possible coterminal angle. So if we wanted to initial side, go all the way around 360 and then go the additional 230 over there. If we wanted to go 230 minus 360, what's that come out to be? 230 minus 360, negative 130. We could start here and go the opposite way and end up there. All right. So 740 initial side, we go all the way around the circle once, we're at 360. We go all the way around the circle twice, we're at 720. All right, which leaves us another angle of basically 20 degrees here. So our initial side is 740. But if you think about, so we subtract 360, subtract 360, we're down to 20. We could have a positive coterminal angle, and this is not just adding circle to it, of initial side and 20 degrees. That'd be a positive coterminal. If we went 740, well, so now let's just say I take my 20 and I go minus 360 off of it, and I get negative 340, right? So if I do that, I have an initial side. The negative goes counterclockwise to get to negative 340, negative 90, negative 180, negative 270, and then another negative 70 degrees would stop right there and leave me right in the same world. So negative 340. Initial side, negative 135. So negative 90 in here somewhere, right? If I want a coterminal angle, what if I go negative 135 plus 360? So I just go around the circle farther. So negative 135 plus 360 would be 225, would be a positive coterminal. What happens if I go positive 225? Initial side, 90, 180, and another 45. So positive coterminal angle. And negative, let's just go negative 135 minus 360 would be what? Negative 495 would also be coterminal. So if I go around the circle once and then another negative 135, there's my coterminal angle. So that'll be it for part 1. Hopefully that's a good little introduction. It's going to take a whole new video to go ahead and introduce for us radians. I look forward to seeing you there.